A very, very good morning to you. I am excited about this edition. Another episode of Powering the Future, proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy. Now, today we delve a bit deeper into the Geological Survey of Namibia, but much deeper, where the focus is on the Geophysics Division. Don't debate your cousin. Hold up. Now, this division is responsible for various geophysical activities. This includes airborne ground interpretation as well as crystal geophysics. I'm not making this up, okay? I have the right person who's going to break down some of these things. What I can add to it is that they offer services that include monitor seismic activity. They monitor nuclear activity, geophysics data sales. This can be radiometric, magnetic, gravity, as well as hyperspectral, okay? Again, I'm not making this up, but I have the right person joining me in studio. That is a nuclear physicist, Dr. Nortin Titus from the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy. Now, one thing is that Dr. Titus was recently seconded, that is, to be Namibia's counselor at the Namibian Permanent Mission in Vienna, Austria, advising our Namibian ambassador there on issues of nuclear energy and nuclear-related matters, as well as also working closely with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Good morning, Dr. Titus.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I have a million questions.
What a wonderful smile you have.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're joining us today. And from a very inner child version of myself, I've always wondered, what do these people do? I've always been very, very fascinated about outer space, by the way. So I always thought of the two as cousins. But today, we I think, just to get everybody on the same page, and if you are just as excited as I am, it's only fair that you tell us your career. Tell us a little bit about that, and also how it started, as well as your recent appointment to go to Vienna.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I think it's really, really important. Well, I come from the dusty streets of Rehoboth.
Okay, yes. Nice.
And like everybody else, for the first few years of my life, I grew up with my grandmother.
Okay.
You know, having all that dust and in Rehoboth we would call it the Rome op die arms.
Okay.
You know, from how dirty we are. And if you think where I started from and where I'm now, it's quite a journey.
Yeah.
And I remember with my grandmother using wood to cook, and before. And I also remember very distinctly the day my uncle installed electricity at her house in the 70s, in the late 70s.
Okay.
Anyway, this has had a big impact on me.
Nice.
In the last few years. But I came to do my schooling in Windhoek, at St. Paul's and at DHPS.
All right.
And studied at Stellenbosch. So
nice.
I was going to do geophysics. Okay. So I studied... I wasn't the brightest student, so...
They always say that, but we'll debate you, okay?
So I wasn't the brightest student. I was one of the laziest in my class. And at university, I studied mathematics, physics, chemistry, and geology. And the plan was to become a geophysicist.
Okay.
But my life sort of took a turn. First of all, my first stint at university didn't go so well, so I failed. I had to come back to Namibia and be unemployed for 3 years. Dang. So it was tough.
Okay.
But anyway, I got the opportunity to go back, and then I completed my degree majoring in physics and geology.
Okay.
I then did radiation physics as an honors. And then did nuclear physics as a master's, and finally did theoretical nuclear physics as a PhD in Stellenbosch. So, and then I returned to Windhoek. I always wanted to come back to Namibia. They asked, "What are you going to do in Namibia as a nuclear physicist?" I said, "I don't care. My country is not chasing me away."
Yeah.
And I started as a geophysicist at the Geological Survey.
Nice. I have a question, and this is probably going to have you a little off guard, but during the time you were then pursuing your studies, did it look a little far-fetched to study nuclear, to be a nuclear physicist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, where do I come and work in Namibia? And this was also the reason why I did theoretical nuclear physics rather than experimental, because theoretical, I felt you are learning about how to apply physics. You have to think 100, 200 years ahead, or you have to basically focus on things you can't see.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, this is what I do today. I have to, when I work with our officials, I work on policy, on government policy. Okay. I have to look 50 years into the future. So as an analytical person, a physicist, advising decision makers and policy makers, you know, the quality of my advice allows them to make informed decisions. Yeah. So my skill is basically interpreting scientific knowledge into layman's terms. And for specifically decision makers. Nice.
How relevant is your attachment to the International Atomic Energy Agency to Namibia?
Very much so. I again will go to my debate I had with my employer, so to say, because you know they clearly saw that I'm not growing sufficiently. And my previous executive director, he had a discussion with me, and he said to me, I also was open with him, and I said, look, I'm not growing. I think I've reached the ceiling. I'm looking around. And he appealed. He said, let's find something that you can pursue, what will make you grow, and we can hold on to your skill and knowledge.
Nice.
And he then recommended I join the mission. I replaced our previous counselor.
Okay.
And in that way, I'm advising specifically on nuclear energy because this is the discussion of today, but our ministry has been tasked with this now for quite a long time.
Okay.
And to find a practical way, who better than us own Namibians to find the solutions to our own problems?
That's true.
And his wish was that I would use my knowledge and my connection and my relationship with the Atomic Energy Agency to find the best pathway for Namibia to one day in the future, for our children, or possibly us, to have a nuclear power station in Namibia.
I mean, talking about that one day, let's have that conversation. This moment. Also, looking at the fact that you said, look, one day is one day, and that one day could look different for different people. What are some of the requirements for a country like Namibia to have nuclear energy? And because then we're all thinking, maybe one day, but do we have the requirements?
Yes, I think this is the central question. Why would you pursue nuclear energy? And I think our president just stated it absolutely correctly a few months ago when she was in Rossing. And again in the State of the Nation address, she essentially said, if we're going to grow our economy, if we're going to develop socially, we need a lot of energy. And she basically pointed to an agnostic energy mix that she believes is going to drive economic growth and provide resilience to our energy system and reliability and predictability. And she pointed out that she needs an energy mix, and nuclear must not be excluded. Right? And that's what we see today. I mean, it's nothing new. The Americans used to call it, or they still call it, the all of the above energy policy. So they choose all of the sources that they can.
Yeah.
So first of all, you need to have a really strategic reason why you will pursue this. And this is for economic growth. It's not for us today. It's also what will work for us in the future. Yeah. And this is a technology that lasts centuries. So you must at some point start. I mean, our ministry started 20 years ago with this question. So it's not something really, really that new.
Yeah.
So what are the conditions? Well, you really obviously need to have a proper plan. It must fit within your overall development strategy and development goals. It must not be a 5-year thing. Yeah. It must be a century long. It's like having a child. You can have a child, but you can also prepare for having a child. You would want to be married, you would want to have a house before you have children. That doesn't mean that you always do it that way, but this is essentially what it is. We have to be highly responsible and accountable for, first of all, what we do, and why we are doing it. Yeah. And second, and internationally, most importantly, and this is also what the president said. She said, we ascribe to the peaceful uses of nuclear power. That means that we are open and transparent about our plans. We are not hiding it. Yeah. We are announcing it, that we are interested in this. Yeah. And that sort of sets the stage to at least investigate it properly.
Well, that is the nuclear physicist, Dr. Nortin Titus, exploring a question you might have also thought about. But also, if you're like me, you're thinking, how feasible is it for us, a country like the land of the brave, to put up a nuclear plant in the country? That conversation coming up after your news.
Namibia's mining sector is the backbone of our economy, driving development and creating opportunities across the nation. The Department of Mines ensures the responsible and optimal utilization of our rich mineral resources, integrating mining with other sectors for sustainable future. From securing mineral rights to ensuring mine safety and environmental responsibility, we support every scale of mining operation while promoting socio-economic growth, harnessing our resources, powering our future.
So that's a 99 FM. The conversation has me, for a minute there, we had this off-air conversation with Dr. Titus, and then we were like, oh, actually, you know what? Let's bring it back out here on air for you. If you're just joining in, it is another edition of Powering the Future, proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy. And today we are really zooming into the Geophysics Division, really. The guys who are really responsible for the various geophysical activities. We're talking airborne, ground interpretation, as well as crystal geophysics. And in particular, this very morning, we have a gentleman who has my mind working overtime. Okay, he is a nuclear physicist, Dr. Nortin Titus from the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy. And to add on to that, he was recently seconded by or to be Namibia's counselor at the Namibian Permanent Mission in Vienna, Austria. That's advising our Namibian ambassador there on issues of nuclear energy and nuclear-related matters, as well as also working very closely with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Earlier, he got to break down a little bit of, his career as well, how that started. And we also touched into, some of the requirements for a country like Namibia to have nuclear energy in the future. I mean, he did reference a lot of his work comes with really forecasts, like thinking about things that ought to happen in the future. And I can't help but wonder, Namibia in every sense, a nuclear plant in the country is how feasible is that?
At the moment, because we are not thinking about it, because we are not talking about it, because we are not actively researching it, we are delaying this, how feasible about it, day by day by day.
Okay. So
somewhere we have to start.
Right.
Somewhere we have to say, okay, from this moment on, let's start discussing this. And I think our president mentioned that in her State of the Nation address. Okay. She guaranteed that we will have this discussion starting this financial year. So it will never be feasible if we don't tackle the problem, if we don't start thinking about solutions to this problem. We have an energy problem. Okay. We have energy poverty in this country. We take electricity for granted. We take electricity. If I was to ask you, do you know how much electricity you use per year? Do you know what is your energy footprint? Would you be able to tell me?
Not.
I can tell you what mine is. Just at our home, we use about 6,000 kilowatt hours of electricity per year. This is just my home.
And that's your house,
because I take accurate data of our. So
please come stay with us too.
So just to put this in perspective, this is the type of electricity that's being used by a normal person in Europe or in the US. And some of our people in this country don't even have electricity.
True.
So this disparity must be ended. And part of being a nuclear physicist, I'm an energy economist because I understand energy. I understand how energy flows. This is what you learn in physics. You understand the laws of physics. You understand the conservation of energy. And this is the biggest throttle to our economic growth, the fact that we are lacking energy. So where do we start? Well, what is being given to Namibia? Not much in terms of energy resources. We just the other day found oil and gas off the coast.
True.
But we've had now since the mid-50s known that we've got a lot of uranium. So if that's been given in your basket, when I get to heaven one day, I want to tell the Lord, I tried my best that we use what has been given unto us.
Yeah.
So I want to go with a clear mind to heaven, saying that, I tried my best.
Yeah.
So we have to start today because this is a long-term project. This is 5, 10, 15 years. The country that has done it the fastest, the UAE, has done it within 12 years to go from having nothing to running nuclear power stations.
Yeah.
So we do have a timeline, but you do need a lot of work, administrative work, to prepare for such a facility. You need to have your things like nuclear safety, nuclear security, something called nuclear safeguards, which is the accountancy of nuclear material. You need to consider financing and funding options. You need to consider what does your procurement law say. You need to understand who's going to manage all of this, from a policy perspective. Are you going to get in the vendor? There are many questions that you ask. In fact, this is why we're working so closely with the International Atomic Energy Agency, because they provided a guideline called the 19 milestone or the milestone approach, which gives you 19 questions that you have to answer as a country.
Nice.
No, you can't do this. You have to walk through this process, because that will identify to you where are your strengths, and where are your weaknesses.
Yeah.
And this is the path that we are on. So we need to address these, and that is going to tell us, pretty much what is what are the conditions, but I would say we've sort of run out of time. We have to accelerate. We have to go much, much faster than we are going now. So we do need to think about this and find solutions to these very, very quickly. We want to be globally competitive.
Yeah.
We have a country where people have got high expectations.
Certainly.
And like I've mentioned, energy poverty throttles economic development. Totally.
Well, the conversation has to start yesterday. That's what Dr. Titus is saying. And it's not just a conversation of any sort. It's one that needs to bring about the solutions necessary to bring about the answer to how feasible is it in terms of you and I thinking that a nuclear power plant may be possible in the land of the brave. Well, another something is, I want to touch on your assignment. How do you feel, this assignment will then benefit you as an individual and pretty much Namibia as a whole?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I firmly believe Namibia will have nuclear power stations in the future. Nice. I firmly believe that. I don't doubt that. We're already getting nuclear energy or electricity from a nuclear power plant. Just our neighbor has got a nuclear power plant, and that is the same electricity that we receive. So have no doubt that I'm the wrong person to ask this, because I'm full on pushing that we go as fast as possible to have a nuclear power plant. But of course, I think I forgot your question again. Sorry.
The assignment. How does this benefit you as an individual and Namibia at large?
So we just had this conversation offline. I never thought that I would work for the Ministry of Mines, for the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy for so long. I thought a career in high energy physics, probably at the university, will be my career. But when you leave university, my philosophy is that you leave as a problem solver, and you have to sharpen your problem solving techniques. And I was telling one of your colleagues yesterday that I was almost a year jobless, coming from university with a PhD, and I had to sort of transform my thinking to say, what are the skills and tools that I've learned at university that's going to help me solve my own unemployment problem? Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. But I think as an individual, being an analytical person, being trained in energy economics as a physicist, having the experience supporting policymakers, is a way where I transform my knowledge on physics and how physical systems work.
Yeah.
I reinterpret them so that it is of benefit to those around me and also myself. And in that process, I'm also learning and growing as an individual, in various sectors, various things that I don't know. I mean, you do communication. I don't specifically know how well to communicate, but I know my skill is to communicate very complex physical terms or scientific terms to decision makers and policymakers.
Right.
So that is how this work type tries to benefit me. And I always believe if you come out of university as a university graduate, somebody always said to me, you get thinkers and doers. Like 20% are thinkers, 80% are doers. I think a vast majority of university graduates should really focus on doing a thinking work and problem solving. One of your colleagues said that's what he thinks of a university graduate as a problem solver. And probably your unemployment status is the first problem you want to solve. But anyway, this is my philosophy, and I'm trying to live that philosophy.
Right. In terms of advice, which at this point I think would be valuable nuggets of information and just knowledge you can share with our listeners, what advice would you give anyone tuned in right now that may actually feel they want to pursue a career as yours?
You mentioned a gold nugget. And obviously, part of my history is stooped in the geosciences. The rocks, minerals formed over millions of years. They don't come out of the rock easily. You have to put in a lot of energy to extract those nuggets. It's the same with your potential. You have to really invest in yourself with a long-term view to extract your potential. And obviously, we just see the gold, we just see the uranium, the finished product, but we never see the process that it takes to get there. We never see the investment. We only see the thing being sold. I heard you mentioning the gold price now. You only see that part and the profits you can make from that. So my advice is that always consider investing in yourself because that will have a long-term payback. Your investment that you make within yourself is your currency in whatever form or fashion it is. If I look at the offers I get at my door, I always ask myself, do people really earn this kind of money? But that is a reflection to me of what the investment is that I have made within myself, that there is a demand for my skill, for my knowledge, and such a premium on that demand for that. So that is the advice. Never forget to invest in yourself and come back to what it is you would want to pursue. And the second, I think one should never lose hope because you are required to reinterpret almost on a daily basis.
100%.
How am I going to solve this? And that's, first of all, how you sharpen yourself. And second of all, you are required to bring the hope. You are required to bring the example. So people must point to you. Look, everything worked out for the... But nobody understands the journey that you walked. So walk it silently and know that, you have to lead yourself. And as a leader, you don't know how many people you are looking at you. So that's the type of advice that I will give. We are all gold nuggets. It depends on how you extract that mineral, that shiny part of yourself.
All right. Well, we certainly need to let you off to the rest of your day. I mean, we can have this conversation the entire day. But before I do any of that, any final words from your side?
First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for having me. I'm just here for a few days. And may Anna Gunu, I give a little shout out to her, just said you have to go onto the radio and talk about nuclear energy. The second thing is, I think we have to demystify the issue around nuclear energy. There are 432 nuclear power plants running in the world, and if we're gonna approach it every time with fear, we are not solving the initial problem. So talking about it a lot more brings knowledge and demystifies demystifies that. So that's the second thing, and then the third thing I would say is that I think it's important that we start solving our own problems. You know, we have the solutions.
Yeah.
We just definitely have also the people inside of our country to help solve those problems.
All right. Well, that is how the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy power our future. No pun intended. The power is indeed where we had Dr. Nortin Titus in studio, a nuclear physicist from the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy. Perhaps a career that probably didn't even spark your mind, a career you couldn't really even think about, but he was the individual who broke that down for us. And one very interesting thing he said is that you need to invest in yourself, and that is exactly the same attitude we should have for our country. The conversation for nuclear power plants in the country it shouldn't have us start it off in fear. More so than ever, it's a conversation he thinks needs urgency, and we need to start with it now, because time, not so much on our side in terms of that. So, Dr. Titus, once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful.
All right. Well, there you have it. We're getting back to some more. And 99 FM, that's where you are tuned into. Remember that you can stream us live at 99fm.com.na. Otherwise, download the 99 FM app. It is available on iOS as well as Android.